right, let's unpack this. Today, we're digging into some really ingrained ideas about money. We've got a set of sources focused on rich dad, poor dad. And our mission, it's really to pull out the core philosophy there and, challenge that traditional thinking.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here right away is this contrast it sets up.
Yeah.
You've got the poor dad, highly educated, secure job, kind of traditional, and the rich dad, he's the friend's dad, the entrepreneur, the investor. And that contrast immediately forces a shift in how you think about wealth itself, assets, liabilities. It's all framed differently.
And it introduces this idea that, maybe surprisingly for some, good grades and a steady job can actually lead you into something called the rat race.
Exactly. That's the term it uses. The rat race is basically working harder and harder just to pay the bills, needing more money as your expenses grow. You're running, but not really getting anywhere financially.
So you're just sort of trapped in that cycle.
Pretty much. And escaping that cycle, it starts with understanding a really crucial distinction the rich dad makes.
Okay, so what is that? How do you actually get out?
It boils down to assets versus liabilities, but maybe not how we usually think of them. The rich dad teaching is super clear. Assets put money into your pocket. Liabilities take money out, period.
Right. Simple definition. But give us an example, like the classic one from the book.
The house example, yeah. So many people think their house is their biggest asset, but the sources argue if it's costing you money every month, mortgage, taxes, upkeep, and not bringing income in, it's actually a liability. It only counts as an asset if it's, say, a rental property generating positive cash flow. Puts money in your pocket.
Wow. Okay, that definitely flips the script for a lot of people. It makes you question things. So if the traditional path doesn't always lead to wealth, and we might even misunderstand basic things like assets, what's the alternative? The sources talk a lot about financial literacy.
They do. And it's presented as something much deeper than just, balancing your checkbook.
Right, not just arithmetic.
No, not at all. It's about understanding how money actually works, how to make it work for you. That's the key shift. It's about building systems, businesses, investments that generate income passively. So you're not just trading your time for money forever.
Passive income, that's the goal.
That's a huge part of it. And this philosophy also encourages independent thinking, taking responsibility for your own financial education, because let's face it, it's often not taught in schools. It also involves, frankly, being willing to take calculated risks and maybe even fail sometimes. Learning from mistakes instead of just avoiding them.
Which is a very different mindset than play it safe.
Very different. And a practical tool the sources mention is understanding your personal financial statement. Your income statement and your balance sheet. It sounds basic, maybe, but it's like having a map. It shows you exactly where your money is coming from and where it's actually going, seeing the reality of your assets and liabilities on paper.
Okay, so for you listening, what does this really boil down to? I think the core message here is shifting your thinking. Moving from being just a consumer to thinking like an investor, seeing every dollar not just as something to spend, but as a potential seed to grow more wealth.
Exactly. And the sources really emphasize approaching these ideas with an open mind. It's not necessarily about adopting every single tactic wholesale. It's more about using it to question your own assumptions about money, maybe sparking some financial introspection and figuring out what building long-term wealth and independence looks like for you.
So a really powerful potential shift in perspective we've explored today, looking at money, wealth, and financial independence in maybe a new light.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe here's something to think about. Beyond the specific financial advice, consider how this rich dad approach, questioning assumptions, learning by doing, maybe embracing challenges. How could that way of thinking influence how you approach learning and growth in other parts of your life too?